my folks are old-fashioned. About everything. Hair, music, you name it. Like when I got my first job. The first thing my dad said was, "Good, now you can save some money." Save? I never had any money before. I was into spending. I bought some new clothes and some records. I took my girl out. You know, by the time payday came around again, I was flat broke. And the thing was, I really didn't have much to show for my money. I mean, sure, I had some new clothes. I had some records, but I was still playing them on this old phonograph. I took my girl out a few times, but we were still taking the bus. So I figured, I'm working now, right? I'll get a loan from a bank and buy a car. But it isn't that easy to get a loan at my age. I remember I asked my dad to sign for the loan with me, but of course he doesn't believe in borrowing money. Save it, he told me. And I tried, I really did. But there was always something coming up, like this great movie. So I took the money and went. But we still had to take the bus. It was just too much. I wanted a car more than anything else. So I gave up and went to Dad. Like I said, he's old-fashioned. But he's been around, and he really knows about saving money. The first thing, he showed me how to make up a budget. I had to figure out how much I could spend for clothes, records, dates, bus fare, everything, and still have something left over to save. So every week after that, I put away $10 with Dad. I just pretended I never even had it. Pay yourself first, he says. He's always saying something like that. But I got to admit, it worked. I saved $10 a week and spent the rest. And it started to build. $10 a week. More than $40 a month. That's $520 a year. By the time summer came, I had enough to get a car. My own car. All with my own money. And I even saved about $30 by not buying it on credit. Of course it's a used car, but it gets me where I want to go. You know what I mean?
It was really hard when I first came up here to the city. I didn't know anyone except my uncle and his family. The first job I had didn't work out, so I had to borrow some money from my uncle. And he couldn't really afford it with all his kids and everything. And then, even when I was working steady, I had to pay him back, and I had to get groceries and things for my apartment. At first, it was just 4 walls and a bare floor. I didn't even have a table, and I was scared, being on my own for the first time. What if I got sick or broke my leg or something and I couldn't work? I knew I should have some money saved up, just in case, you know. Then I'd see a big sale where they had really nice clothes, like at half price or something. But I figured out that I couldn't have everything all at once, and some things were more important. I had to plan ahead. So I only bought the necessary furniture, like a bed at first. The dresser, couch, and chairs just had to wait until I saved up the money. I mean, that stuff costs so much. And I didn't want to borrow the money from one of those places where you end up paying more in interest than the price of the furniture. So I figured, why pay them interest for my money? I still have to pay for the things I want, so why don't I get the interest for myself? And now I still don't have much furniture, but I have a savings account, and that helps my credit rating. And I have a feeling of security, just in case something happens.
You know, most people just put their money into a bank and never think about any place else. I got to know these two guys at work. Max was always pushing the credit union. Our labor union runs a credit union for all the members. Max is the vice president. Max took me in and introduced me to Jay Noracross. He's the guy you talk to if you want to join. Jay explained that if you do join the credit union, you get a vote in how it works. For one thing, your money's safe in the credit union. All the deposits are insured by the federal government. The credit union pays interest, too. Max explained that credit unions are the cheapest place around to get a loan. That's what they're for, to loan money to the members. It makes sense. But Greg was always telling me about savings and loan companies. His big point was that savings and loan companies pay more interest than credit unions or banks. I checked that out. There's a federal regulation on that. Banks just aren't allowed to pay as much interest as savings and loans. Savings and loans have two kinds of accounts: passbook savings and time savings. With a passbook account, you can put your money in or take it out anytime you want. That's convenient, but passbook savings don't pay as much interest as time savings. You buy a savings certificate in a certain amount, and you agree to leave the money in for a certain length of time, like 6 months or a year or 3 years. The longer you leave it in, the higher the rate of interest you can get, up to the legal maximum. But if you have to take the money out before the time is up, you usually lose some of that interest. The savings and loan counselor also explained about checking accounts. You can't get one from a savings and loan company or from a credit union. I need a checking account so I can pay my bills without having to get money orders all the time. So I went to a bank. The only problem with that was checking accounts don't pay any interest. And there's usually a charge for a checking account, either a monthly service charge or a certain amount per check, or a minimum balance you have to leave in the account. So I thought about it, and I learned. One thing I learned to look for was government deposit insurance. Most financial places, banks, savings and loan companies, credit unions, most of them are insured. So if the place gets robbed or something, you can get your money back from the government. But some places don't have that insurance. You have to watch out for that. Another thing you'll hear about is the way a bank or savings and loan association figures the interest. There are just about as many ways to compound interest as there are places to put your money. I learned that the interest rate is more important than the compounding. After all my looking around, I finally decided on a bank, so I could get both a checking and a savings account. You see, that way I can do the whole thing by mail. The bank takes money out of my checking account and puts it in my savings account. This forces me to save every month. So it just depends on what you need. For a loan, you can't beat a credit union. For interest on savings, you can't beat a savings and loan company. Just shop around and get what you want.
We're doing pretty well now, with both of us working. We have a little saved up, the car's paid for, and insurance. No kids. Things are looking good now, so we've been looking around for investments. Ways to help us build up our future. Ways to use our money. Carol wants to buy a house. I guess a house can be a pretty good investment. If you're careful, you get a good buy. We drove around and did some house hunting. The problem is, all the houses we liked cost so much. And a house is a lot of trouble to keep up, you know. No painting and fixing and all that. I'm not too excited about that. I'd rather keep up the apartment and put our money into something else. We thought about U.S. savings bonds. I guess that's the safest investment you can make, but that just doesn't pay enough interest for me. I'd rather put some money in the stock market. You can make some real money there. So I started watching some stocks, and this guy at work gave me a good tip, a sure thing, he said. What I did was just pretend to buy the stock, just to see what would happen. I wasn't too sure about getting into the market. The sure thing lost me $1,000 in about 2 weeks. I'm sure glad I was only pretending. You can lose it just as fast as you can make it in the market. Since then, I've talked to people who really know about stocks, and I've read everything I could get my hands on. I don't want to jump into the stock market without really knowing what's going on. We've talked about other things too, like investing in real estate, or antiques, or gold and silver. But the ad is one thing, and the fact of the matter is something else. The whole world's real happy to help you spend your money. And it's Carol's money too, of course. And we figured out one thing for sure. Only a fool would invest money in something without really, and I mean really, understanding it first.
I got to admit, it's better to budget and save than to owe a lot of money to a bank.
Now that I have a savings account, I really feel more secure. It's good.
The bank takes care of my saving automatically, every month. I'm glad I looked around.
I'd like to be the kind of investor who knows exactly what the risks are, who looks before he leaps. I don't want to lose what we've got, so it seems it's the smart thing to do.